Complex solutions mean that there's going to be an I in my answer, right? Okay. And how am I going to know if I'm going to have an I? Let's go a step further. How am I going to know if I'm going to have an I in my solution? It has to be more specific, not just negative and positive numbers. With the radical, right? Inside the radical is where we're going to have, what is it? If it's negative or is it positive, will I have imaginary? If there's a negative number inside my radical, I will have a complex solution. Because remember, the square root of a negative number doesn't really exist. It's imaginary. So if there is a negative number inside the radical, there will be a complex solution. Remember, complex just means that there's an imaginary number involved. Any questions over that? We're all good? Okay, so we can determine if my solution is going to be imaginary or not by just looking at inside the square root. So if I go back to my quadratic formula, I can determine if my equation will have an imaginary or complex solution or a real solution just by looking at the b squared minus 4ac. The b squared minus 4ac has a special name then. Okay. And it helps me determine what type of solutions I have and how many. If I can get this to scroll down faster. So the quadratic equation of a real or complex solution, you can determine the type and the number of solutions by finding the discriminant. Okay. The discriminant is just what's inside the radical, the b squared minus 4ac. Okay. So when you're solving your quadratic equation, and if you just look at the discriminant, the b squared minus 4ac, if that value equals 0, then there is one real solution, or root. Okay. And your parabola will look something like this. The vertex will be on the x-axis. If the b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, that means it's negative. Okay. If inside the radical is negative, can someone raise their hand and tell me what does that mean? Flores, if inside the radical is negative, what does that mean? Let's go back and look at our notes. That means I'm going to have complex solutions. Okay? Complex solutions mean they don't really exist, right? So you'll have two complex solutions or roots. Okay. And remember, our solutions to our quadratic equations are where it crosses the x-axis. So what does that tell me about my graph? Michael, what does that tell me about my graph if I have two complex solutions? I think you do. Okay, so what does complex mean again? So let's go back and look at our wonderful notes. What does complex mean? Okay, and if there's a negative in the radical, what does that mean?
Complex.
Okay, or what's another word for it? What does our I mean? Imaginary. Okay, which means it's not real, right? It doesn't really exist. Okay, so my parabola won't actually touch the x-axis. Okay, my solutions are imaginary, so they don't really exist. Any questions over that? We're all good? Okay, the next one is if b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0. That means it's positive inside my radical. And if it's positive, that just means I have two real roots. Okay, that means my parabola crosses the x-axis in more than one spot, in two spots. So it has two x-intercepts. Any questions over that? Okay, when we are dealing with a discriminant, it's just an idea to help us identify what our answer should look like and what our graph is going to look like. Okay. Will it touch the x-axis only once, not at all, or two times? Okay, that's how we would use it. So here we're just going to find the discriminant and tell how many solutions there are. Okay. So to review, we need to identify the A, B, and C. So Lisa, what is the A value in this one? 1. The number in front, it's in front of the x squared, so A value is 1. Harvey? There you are. What is the B value? Okay. And Robbie, what's the C value? Okay, we just plug it into the discriminant of b squared. B squared minus 4 AC. So I have 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 10 6 squared is 36. 4 times 1 times 10 is 40, and it's negative. So 36 minus 40 is negative 4. Okay. Then we have to determine what that means. So we go back here. And is b squared minus 4ac equal to 0? No, it's equal to negative 4. Is the negative 4 less than 0? Yes. Negative 4 is less than 0, so it has two complex solutions or roots. That means my graph will never cross the x-axis. Any questions over that? Okay, next one. Everyone does E and F on their own. Try them on their own. Okay, so this is the b squared minus 4ac. Should have given me 49 minus 4 times 2 times 6. So 49 minus 48, which gives me 1. Okay, so that means there's going to be 2 real roots. I can go back here and just double check. 1 is not equal to 0, so it's not 1 real. 1 is not less than 0, so it's not too complex. 1 is greater than 0, so it's 2 real solutions. Okay? Next one, same thing. I should have gotten 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times 16. That should have been 64 minus 64, which was 0. And when 0 equals 0, that means it's 1 real solution. Any questions over that? Okay, the back side is just a review of our function notation and what each means. So we have f of 0 equals, okay, that's what we're looking for. Remember that all that means is that x equals 0. Find y when x is 0. So you plug in 0 everywhere you see it. So you're going to have f of 0 equals, replace all your x's with zeros. Zero squared plus 12 times 0 plus 36. So f of 0 equals 0 squared is 0 plus 12 times 0 is 0 plus 36. 0 plus 0 is 0 plus 36 is 36. So f of 0 equals 36. Any questions over that? Okay, the next one, now instead of 0, they're asking you to plug in negative 2. So again, it's just telling you that x equals negative 2. Find y when x is negative 2. So f of negative 2 equals negative 2 squared plus 12 times negative 2 plus 36. So f of negative 2 equals negative 2 squared is positive 4. Let's see that. 12 times negative 2 is negative 24 plus 36. So then this gives me f of negative 2 equals 4 and negative 24 is negative 20 plus 36. Negative 20 plus 36 is 16. So when x is negative 2, y is 16. Any questions over that? Okay. I want you guys to do these two now for I. Just do A and B for I. Okay, so now this one is asking us to find f of x equals 0. So we are given the y value, y equals 0, and they want us to find the x. So we plug it into our equation. We have 0 equals x squared plus 12x plus 36. Okay, now we have to solve that. We have solved these in numerous different ways. We have solved this by factoring, by using the quadratic formula, by square rooting, by completing the square. So it doesn't matter how we solve it, however you want to solve it. Anyone have a care as to how we solve this? The fastest way. Any idea what that fastest way would be? Anyone else have an idea of the fastest way? Yeah? No. Definitely wouldn't do that. When you're solving a quadratic, you need it to be equal to 0. That's the first step. Yep.
What is that box?
Let's factor it. The box will help us factor it. I feel like it's the fastest way. Other people might be faster in a different way, but factoring is, for me, the easiest. Okay, so we're going to draw our box. We're going to get x squared plus 12x, and then 36. We're going to get x times x. Oh, it won't let me write it there, of course. Okay, what multiplies to 36? 6 and 6, good. Okay, so this will be 6x, this will be 6x. Okay. If I add these two, because 36 is positive, if I add them, do I get 12? Yep. So everything needs to be positive. Okay, so then my factors are x plus 6 times x plus 6 and equals 0. Then to solve it, I separate my factors. I get x plus 6 equals 0, and then x plus 6 equals 0. To solve it, I just subtract 6 from both sides. And I get x equals, it's negative 6 both times, so I don't need to write it twice. I just have to have one answer. So f of x equals 0, x equals negative 6. Any questions over that? Okay. So now we're giving another one. Now I'm telling you to find f of x. If f of x equals 4, what does x equal? So you're going to plug in 4 equals the x squared plus 12x plus 36. Okay, any ideas on how I'm going to solve that? Subtract the 4. I need to make it equal to 0 before I do anything. So let's subtract that 4. If I do it to this side, then I have to do it to this side. Where will the negative 4 go? Will it go with the x squared, the 12x, or the 36? 36. You have to put it with the like terms. So this gives me 0 equals x squared plus 12x plus 32. Any ideas how we want to solve this? Fox, you want to try and factor it again? Okay, now just so you know, you're not always going to be able to factor. Some of them won't be able to be factored. So if you're having a problem factoring it, then try and use the quadratic formula or square root it, if you can. This can be factored though. This is x and x. Tell me what multiplies to 32? 84. So this will give me 8x. This will be x times 4 will give me 4x. If I add them, do I get 12? Yep, everything's positive because everything's positive. These are all positive numbers, so these will all be positive. So then my factors are x plus 4 times x plus 8 and equals 0. Now you're going to separate them and get x plus 4 equals 0 and x plus 8 equals 0. We subtract that 4. And that will give me x equals negative 4. I'll subtract 8. And I'll get x equals negative 8. So f of x equals 4, then x is going to equal negative 4 and negative 8. Any questions over that? Okay, let's try the other ones. Okay, this one's going to be a little different. Let's see. Again, f of x equals 0, so we need to take our 0, and it equals, oh, it shouldn't be f of x, it should be g of x. That's a mistake. Make all of these g's. So 0 equals x plus 3 squared plus 6. Any ideas on how I'm going to solve this one? Okay. Then what? Any idea? Yeah? Distribute it out? We could definitely do that. There is a faster way. Huh? There is a faster way. Because he's saying I could take this, write it out twice, and distribute it all through. Okay, and then I would get something that looks similar to what we just had, this in standard form. Okay, but there's a faster way. Anyone have that way? What did we learn? Quadratic formula? Square root it. Don't use the quadratic formula because, again, quadratic formula, we need to make it like this in standard form. We need the A, the B, and the C. And that's not what I have right now, right? I don't have an A, B, and a C. I do have a perfect square, though. Whenever I have a perfect square, okay, I can just square root it. and square root this one. When I square root something that is squared, it just comes outside the radical and I get x plus 3. This I can simplify. Will I have any pairs? Will the 6 have any pairs to pull out? No. So it's going to stay inside the radical. Remember, I have that negative. So what does that tell me? It's an I. It's imaginary. This is not a real number. And if I have I square root 6, then I also have negative I square root 6. The last thing we need to do is get that x by itself. So I'm going to subtract the 3 from both sides. And I'm going to get x equals negative 3 plus I square root 6, and then negative 3 minus I square root 6. So if I were to graph this, this parabola would never touch the x-axis because my answers are imaginary. Any questions over that? Yes, I'll be right there. Okay, so I want you guys to do D now on your own. Substitute 10 in there. And solve it. Just a minute, hang in there.